Hi guys, welcome to another Bconnected World Masterclass. We haven't had one for a while, so it's time to put one together, and we're very lucky today. We've actually got Dr. Christian Willems, who's going to be doing a masterclass for us today, and it is called, and I keep forgetting this, I wrote the thing, Loathe Presenting, Get to Love It. And I just want to give you a bit of background about Dr. Chris. So Dr. Chris Willems is a communications consultant and coach with a uniquely diverse career in corporate communications, award-winning television, performing arts, and tertiary education. Dr. Chris has coached across professional, media, and tertiary education sections for more than 23 years. Dr. Chris, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Jay. Hi, everyone. I'll just deal with the technology and share my screen, if that's all right with everyone, and we will assume that it works. Oh my God, it does. Surprise, surprise. Okay. Welcome, and thanks very much for the opportunity to have a chat with you this afternoon. Because this is about making business videos, I thought I'd start with a business video.
Hi, my name is Dr. Chris Willems, and I've been coaching in corporate communication for more than 20 years. And it might surprise you to know that my background actually spans about 40 years in the performing arts and television. And it might surprise you even more to know that for 25 of those years, I was a professional mime artist. Now, I'm just about here, you're thinking, well, what the hell's mime got to do with corporate communication? Well, when you consider that mime, at its most fundamental, consists of the analysis, manipulation, and stylization of body language, and that body language forms so much part of human communication, it's not that surprising. So what's mime got to do with it? Well, actually, just about everything. It's all about you making an impact.
It is indeed all about you making an impact as leaders. And I want to talk about leadership and communication because the research tells us that the skill considered most critical to effective leadership is communication. Unfortunately, though, it's also deemed a skill in need of greatest improvement in the majority of businesses. That's a bit of a worry. But there are different kinds of communication. There's obviously verbal and non-verbal, but there's written, there's visual, there's all sorts of communication. And my career kind of reflects quite a few of those, actually. But you look at that list of things that I've done and you go, well, they don't really have much to do with each other. But what I've learned a couple of things over the course of that checkered career. One is that life's not linear. And the other, more importantly, is that no experience is ever wasted. Everything you do informs everything else that you do. Everything you do adds quality, depth, richness, and texture to everything that you do, irrespective of the field or fields of professional practice. Everything you do teaches you something, and everything you learn is useful, not just for you, but for your the people that you might teach, coach, or mentor as well. No experience is ever wasted. And it's where those apparently unrelated fields intersect and interact that I've found that most productive solutions are in terms of professional communication. So here are some of the organizations I've worked with for or consulted to over the last couple of decades or so. And what you notice about them is they're all really different. Even organizations in the same sector are really quite different from each other. They're all unique. So it's great to work with those different organizations and many others and apply and adapt one's skills to their unique circumstances and unique message and unique way of, of getting that message out there. So by now you're probably asking the question, well, how's this relevant to you? Well, it's actually all about you. It's about the unique individual that you are as a business owner making an impact. But who are you? You might be a business owner, so you engage with a range of different people, shareholders, directors, whoever. You might be CEO, so you engage with some of the same people, but different people as well, like customers and clients and staff. You might be an entrepreneur, so you engage with some of the same people again, but also investors, because you're selling your ideas, you're selling your concepts, you're selling your passion. And in my experience, you often find that it's the passion that ultimately sells the concept or the idea. So which of these is you? I suspect it might be all of the above. And the common factor in all of the above is engagement. And we achieve engagement through effective communication. And there's a handy little definition, one of many: effective communication, exchanging ideas and thoughts and knowledge with clarity and purpose. And that's what it's about exchanging information and knowledge with clarity and purpose. So whilst you are no doubt successful, you are no doubt high achieving, and you are no doubt the complete professional, you may have a chink in your armor. And that is that more than 85% of all online communication these days is via video. So yes, it's all about you, but it's increasingly all about you on camera. Trouble is, you hate talking to camera. And if you do, welcome to the human race. Most people do. And as one of my clients put it, if there's anything worse than listening to yourself, it's watching yourself. But you no longer have a choice, because 500 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every minute. That's not a typo. Every minute, 500 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube. So you've got to find a way of cutting through that tsunami of visual information. And 91% of businesses are trying to do that, to cut through that tsunami, but at the same time contributing to it, obviously. Those who don't, it's an interesting range of reasons why they don't use video: lack of time, don't know where to start, can't convince the boss, too expensive, we'll talk about that later, can't see the need, unclear about return on investment. So roughly 20% don't or won't or can't articulate a reason why they don't use video. I suspect it's because they hate talking to camera. I'm not a psychologist, I wouldn't know, but I also suspect that some of the rational reasons given above are rationalizations for I hate talking to camera. But as I say, I'm not a psychologist, I wouldn't know. In his wonderful book titled What Makes Us Tick, renowned Australian social researcher Hugh Mackay suggests that the most fundamental desire driving all of us is the desire to be taken seriously. And I would argue that in the business context, that's amplified and magnified by a factor of many times, because we are complete professionals. We're used to being listened to because we know what we're talking about. So why is it then that when it comes to talking to camera, we allow ourselves as those complete professionals to come across as complete amateurs? Why do we, within the space of half a minute, undermine professional credibility built up over half a lifetime out of a simple lack of awareness of ourselves, our visual environment, or how to present our information to a camera? Because talking to a camera is very different from talking to 400 people in an auditorium, 40 people in a seminar, or even 4 people in a boardroom. There's no visible audience, there's no feedback, there's just this piece of glass. And for most of us, this piece of glass is surprisingly intimidating. So what I want to do now is just take a moment, have a look deeply, deeply, deeply into that piece of glass, into that camera lens, where all those lights converge. Look deeply and say after me in the privacy of your own home, say after me out loud, "This is my best friend, not my worst enemy." You ready? This is my best friend, not my worst enemy, because it needs to become your best friend. And I love this quote because it reminds us that the more we use technology, the more important, the more crucially important human engagement is, in terms of building and sustaining and maintaining professional and interpersonal relationships. So, we could talk about that for a long time, but the human factor is crucially important in all this communication. So the crucial considerations then are, if you're making videos, they've got to be human, engaging, and authentic, and at the same time, high impact, credible, and professional quality business videos. So the big question then is, well, how do we do that? How do we reconcile all of that? How do we create those personable but highly professional business videos without breaking the bank? Well, the answer is literally in your pocket. The cameras in these devices are remarkably good. And every iteration of a new iPhone or whatever, they get better and better. But someone who knows a lot more about cameras and filmmaking than I do is this bloke here, Sam Mendes, directed a few decent movies like Skyfall and 1917 and many others, who says of these cameras that they're very, very good. So everyone can make a film, but not everyone can tell a story. And that's the difference. So what's your story? What's your business story? Well, we're about to find out, because what I want you to do is I want you to shoot a selfie video that goes for 15 seconds. That's all, not a big chunk of your life, 15 seconds, about your business. And you've got 1 minute to shoot it. So it's a 4-to-1 shooting ratio. That's fairly generous. So take out your phones, fire up the camera on video, pop them on video, and so we need a 15-second video about your business, and you've got 1 minute to shoot it, and your time starts now.
It's going to take me more than a minute to find the bloody thing. Got it.
Okay, time's up. How do we go? Let's have a short review, shall we? Who went vertical and who went horizontal? We see the world in landscape mode. You're looking at screens, the screen in landscape mode. So yes, I know there's some platforms that say it's got to be square or vertical, but generally speaking, by default, for video, go horizontal in landscape. Photos are fine vertical, video is not. Too light or too dark. It looks like plenty of light for most of you. Jay's a bit dark there, but make sure you're not a silhouette, okay? Make sure there's enough light for the camera to see you and therefore for the audience to see you. Who looked at the lens and who looked at the screen? If in playback, the eyes looking back at you aren't actually looking at you, that means you were looking at the screen, not the lens when you shot the video. So it's a bit tricky to find the lens sometimes. It's such a small dot, but look at the lens when you're shooting it, not the screen. And it's remarkable how much information you can fit into 15 seconds. It's equally remarkable how quickly 15 seconds comes rushing up to beat you on the head when you're trying to squeeze information into 15 seconds. So think about all of those things whenever you shoot a video, because as a complete professional in the 21st century, we need to understand the video medium. We need to develop what I call our visual vocabulary, and we need to overcome our fear of the camera. Why? Because you no longer have a choice. And another reason why you no longer have a choice is because of this little ball of fluff here, which, as you well and truly know, shut the whole place down for a year or two. And we found ourselves in the Zoom room, as we are now in the Zoom room. So, and having used Zoom for sort of 2 or 3 or 4 years, as a species, we actually haven't gotten much better at it. And this is an example of some sort of high-profile people who have legions of media advisors to tell them how to come across on camera and all sorts of things. And yet, let's have a look at some very common things that still plague us today on video. Firstly, framing. Anything with a yellow circle around it is about framing. So mostly it's to do with headroom, and that's the difference between the top of the head, distance between top of the head and top of the frame. It's very common. We have too much headroom. Lighting, the red circle's top left-hand corner there. That lady's got the light. It's great to use natural light, but if it's behind you, you become a silhouette and we lose those micro expressions that we can see on screen. The one above it in the cabinet room there, a couple of things here. There's the lighting, so there's people way back there and the light's coming through those very tall glass doors, windows, whatever they are. And the other thing is a function, these devices have wide angle lenses, and a function of a wide angle lens is to throw the background way back and pull the foreground way forward. So if I move my hand even slightly forward, it gets massive and the background's way back there. So a combination of two, the two in the background may as well not be there. Speaking of backgrounds, bottom right and pinky purple circles, the Lord Chancellor bottom right is fairly busy. I'm not sure what he's looking at, but it ain't the camera. In the middle there, Liz Truss has got a flag growing out of her head. And to the left of her picture, it's good to have bookcases because you look like a sort of a learned, well-read person, but the bottom one of those two photos with that forced perspective is kind of very claustrophobic and borderline scary, really. Bottom left, by contrast, the bottom left there, Amanda Milling has got nothing in the background, which is great. Very clean, nothing distracting. However, because her hair happens to be of a similar tone and color to the background, she's almost like a face in space, just floating in midair. And the orientation, as mentioned, don't go vertical because look how much real estate. You're losing 2/3 of the screen. You're losing all that screen real estate if you go vertical. So anything with a green tick is not too bad. That's pretty good, really. And I'm not sure what Boris was thinking, but it certainly wasn't about framing the shot. Eye contact is the most fundamental way that human beings communicate. And when we're on Zoom, we think we're making eye contact because we're looking at each other on the screen. Of course, we're making eye contact. I can see all of you, I can see some of you on screen now, but I'm not making eye contact. From your point of view, I'm not making eye contact because I'm looking at the screen, not the lens. So I have to lift my gaze up to there. So when I'm talking to you, I need to remind myself to look at the lens. So from my point of view, I'm not making eye contact with you because I'm not looking at your faces on the screen. But from your point of view, I am because I'm looking straight down the barrel of the lens. Bit tricky to get your head around. So my advice is if you're listening, it's fine to look at the screen. Absolutely. If you're presenting or hosting, then look at the lens and just keep reminding yourself to look at the lens because that's where it is up there and it's sometimes very hard to find. Another function of the lenses in these devices is that they tend to be autofocus. So the former governor of the Reserve Bank here, unfortunately for him, and there's quite a long interview, the camera's gone, oh, there's some nice indigenous artwork in the background. I think I'll focus on that because there's some nice straight lines. It's beautiful. Unfortunately for the governor, former governor, he's out of focus for the whole interview. So make sure that you are in focus in the foreground, and ideally that your background is slightly out of focus. It doesn't have to be hugely out of focus, just a bit out of focus is useful. So when you're doing a Zoom session, ask yourself these questions. Do I have too much headroom? What's the camera angle? Is it too low, too high, too wide? I mean, typically what we have is our laptops on a desk with the thing tilted, the screen tilted back. So the camera's looking up the nostrils and 15 acres of ceiling behind us. Okay. So if you can have it at eye level, that's ideal. What's your distance from the lens? If I lean slightly back, I look like I've gone back about 3 meters. In fact, it's less than half a meter. So that's, again, a function of a wide angle lens. And are you making real eye contact, not screen contact? And where's the light source coming from? Are you a silhouette? And make sure your background is ideally out of focus, or your virtual background. Zoom, as you well know, has these backgrounds that you can choose and pop in there. That's great. But all those photos, nice as they are, they're all in focus. And what you don't want is a background in focus, because then you're fighting with the background for the attention of the viewer. But it's really important to remember that Zoom is much, much more, potentially much more than just a convenient way of having a meeting. It needs to be regarded as a micro marketing opportunity. Even in these small frames, like the size of a matchbox, it's still a marketing opportunity. It's a micro marketing opportunity. So how you set up your screen and your background is actually really, really important. This is perception, and this is reality. This photo was taken immediately after a meeting with 6 world leaders, and by the official prime ministerial photographer, and posted on the internet. And we've all kind of done this. We had tracky dacks and shorts, whatever, with family and friends. But when you're in a business situation, I would strongly urge you not to do this. I'm not a psychologist. I wouldn't know, but I've been on the planet long enough to know that what you wear influences how you feel. How you feel influences how you come across. How you come across determines how you and your business are seen in the professional world. So there's a level of professionalism about this. There's also a level of respect. So, I mean, if you go back to Hugh Mackay's The Desire to be Taken Seriously, I would argue that you can't be taken seriously in stubbies and thongs unless you're a tradie. Well, even then, you're not, because you shouldn't be wearing thongs. You should be wearing safety boots. Okay, so being taken seriously. Let's go beyond Zoom. We're all a bit over Zoom, I think. But the new reality is, and will continue to be, that video is a dominant online communication tool. And you are the face of your business. You are the personification of your organization. So how you come across will determine how your business comes across and is perceived in the professional world. So you need to get comfortable and confident presenting to camera, not only for your own professional credibility, but for that of your business as well. Because if you're going to use video, you need to make it work for you. You need to make it work for you, not against you. And you need to make it work for you, the unique individual that you are and that your business is, because it's much, much more than just a carrier of information. It's the creator of perceptions. And that's what it's all about. It's all about perception. If you look at these 3 very, very experienced journalists, 2 of them are familiar with and relatively comfortable in the very foreign environment of a TV studio. The 3rd is not. You don't have to be a body language expert to work out which of those 3 people is less comfortable in that very foreign environment, irrespective of their qualifications and skill and all that. So it's all about perception. And the perception you want, I would argue, is one of authority, of credibility, and of leadership. There's that word again. And that's achieved through clear, concise, confident communication on camera these days. These 2 things are kind of mutually interdependent. You can't really have one without the other. It's kind of like 2 halves of the brain, really. And you don't have a lot of time to achieve that. In my view, you've got about 3 seconds before you are 1 click away from oblivion.
Television gobbles up time. Television is, by definition, bite-sized chunks of time stacked up in a list which, when played consecutively, end to end, constitute a program. Our viewing biorhythms have evolved and become so locked in sync with the immediacy, the instantaneousness of the television commercial, the quick news grab, the internet download, that we no longer have the patience for long, lingering shots of long, detailed speeches. For this reason, as business presenters on television, we need to apply some thought, some active awareness to packaging our information, to adapt to this totally foreign yet very familiar and very powerful visual medium.
And that's what it's about. It's a visual medium. So we need to start thinking visually. Let's have a look at a case study. I apologize in advance for the lousy audio quality. This wasn't up on the internet for very long, so it was taken down very quickly. And you may discern probably the reason why it was taken down very quickly.
Labor plans to abolish negative gearing as we know it, and to double capital gains tax on profit. It's simple. If you own your own property, under Labor's policy, it will be worth less. If you rent your own home under Labor's policy, you will pay more. Labor's Shadow Treasurer, Chris Bowen, says he plans to take Labor's policy to the next election unchanged. This would be a mistake and cause significant damage to Australia's property market. Labor just wants to increase your taxes. It wants to increase your taxes on your income, on your business, on your personal savings, on your electricity bill, and of course, on your property. Only the coalition can be trusted to lower your taxes and to keep the Australian economy strong.
Okay, Josh Frydenberg generally tends to be a pretty good communicator, but let's have a look. Who do you reckon the target audience is? Is it we the punters? Maybe put something in the chat box. I'm reluctant to go to the chat box because I'll lose all this. Does he connect with us? Does he connect with us, the voters of Australia? If the answer is yes, how and why? Think about these things. If it's not, how and why not? So if you ask yourself some question, what's the message? What's in the background? What's in the background? And does he relate to us? Does he relate to us? Does the background relate to us as what does it support what he's trying to say? And does it relate to the target audience, meaning the voters of Australia? So when in watching something like this, you need to ask yourself these questions as well. What's in the background? Does it relate? Does it support your message? So if we rewind back to live presentation, these figures are well and truly researched and been around for decades and replicated since, but 55% of human communication in a presentation, any communication, is non-verbal body language. 38% is how you sound, the tone of your voice, which leaves a miserable 7% in terms of the words that you say. If we translate that onto the on-screen context, let's assume the words are worth about 7%. Well, that's arguable, but let's assume for the purpose of this exercise that it's about the same. You, as a presenter, are really important. I know you are in the live presentation as well, because without you, there is no presentation. But on screen, everything's magnified, everything's amplified. Micro expression, because we're in this contained space, everything's amplified, and micro expressions take on a whole new meaning. What you share that frame with becomes super important. On a live presentation, it doesn't matter very much what the background is. On screen, it absolutely matters what the background is. So what do we see besides you in the frame? What does your story look like? Bit of a strange question to ask, but what does your story look like? Every picture tells a story. Every story evokes a picture or pictures. So what visual images can you use to underpin and support your business story? I mean, if you look at those pictures there, there's there's a corporate look, there's a holiday look, there's a nighttime kind of festival-y look. So we instantly know before you even start talking roughly what you might be talking about, what your context is. So it's really important to always consider your background and always check your background. Some people don't.
As we've seen previously, you also have to think like a designer if you're going to do a piece to camera, especially in your own premises. Unlike the variables that come with a location, in your studio, office or workspace, you have or should have complete control over your environment. So before you start shooting, sit down, take a look around and ask yourself these basic questions. Is there enough light? Where's that light coming from? What mood is the light creating? Is it open and honest, or is it shadowy and suspicious? Is it an aesthetically pleasing space to look at on camera? Do you need to dress the set? Is there anything distracting behind or next to you? Is your frame so cluttered that you, the presenter, become lost in amongst the distracting objects, visual detail and textures? Is there a pot plant or a tree or a lampstand or anything else growing out of your head? If so, can you move it? Or can you move yourself? Or can you move the camera to tidy up the shot? If necessary, move some things or move yourself.
So indeed, move some things or move yourself, because we're talking about aesthetics. And you might well ask, well, what's aesthetics got to do with a video about law or engineering or mining or accountancy? Well, we're talking about visual storytelling, and we're talking about the fundamental sense of a story well told, a visual story well told. So if you can find pictures that are attractive and appealing to support your story and relevant, if you can attract the viewer's eye in the first place and hopefully hold their attention by using beautiful pictures, then you're winning. You've got to be ahead. So when you reshoot your video, which we're about to do, when you reshoot your video, you need to think about where you can shoot that. What's a relevant visual background or location? How can you show the story as well as tell it, but do that aesthetically? And how do you best use your fundamental human authenticity to engage with your audience? So what I'd like to do now is for you to reshoot the video, and you can change the script, that's fine. But this time I'll give you a bit more time, 20 seconds. Sorry, that's the duration, not the time. That's the duration is 20 seconds. Again, it's about your business. So you can say the same, fundamentally the same, or change it, add bits to it. And this time you've got 3 minutes. That's very, very generous. That's like a 9-to-1 shooting ratio. That's so generous. It's ridiculous. I don't know why I'm even offering that. But you've got 3 minutes to shoot it, and I'll time you, and we'll call you back in 3 minutes' time. So off you go. Oh, sorry, before you go, think about what do you bring to this communication? What's your superpower? What's your special skill or knowledge that you bring to this communication? What visual images might you use? I fully appreciate that at the moment you are where you are, and you can't sort of go out in location and find stuff, nice pictures, but think about them at least. And how can you personalize your engagement? How can you maximize your engagement by personalizing your engagement with your authentic humanness, if that's a word? Okay, off you go. You're allowed to do more than one take.
Chris,
Yes.
so while we're waiting for people to finish that,
Yeah.
Grace has asked a question. What about
Yes.
video/Zoom backgrounds?
What specifically about them? Well, you can insert your own pictures in there.
Yeah.
If you want to, and which I do all the time. In fact, many of us do.
Yeah.
You don't have to stick with the Zoom ones. And the blurred background thing has its own inherent issues. I might mention if you remind me. So yeah, but I encourage you to use your own photos, your own images and photos. Okay, about 1 minute to go. Okay, about 10 seconds to go. All right, let's have a discussion. So who's your target audience? Did you think about who your target audience is? That's the most fundamental thing to ask yourself whenever you do any kind of presentation, whether it's live or video, but particularly video. Who's your target audience? What visual images did or could you use? If you had a think about that. Again, you know, you're not in a position at the moment to necessarily change things, but think about what you could use in your video. And do you reckon you got your message across? If yes, what made it come across? And if not, what do you need to tweak to help it come across with authenticity? And don't delete those, by the way. I want to talk a bit about going global. And it sounds like a bit of a tall order, but virtually all of us are going global anyway, really, by default. But let's look a bit more specifically into that. You can take your best business ideas to the world, from the globe of an idea to global, literally. And all you need is the device that you've got already, plus the internet. You can have the potential reach of a Rupert Murdoch. You may not have the money or the influence, but you certainly have the potential reach of a Rupert Murdoch, of a media mogul, just with that device and the internet. And there are many ways of doing that, but I'll focus on two. The first is what I refer to as the shoot, butte, distribute model. And that's effectively what you've just done. You did a 15-second video, you had 1 minute to, yeah, quick, I'm going to have an idea, whack it up on the phone, load it up onto YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook, whatever. The other model is the more traditional three-phase model, which is pre-production. You plan it, then your production model, and the production and the post-production. So what that involves is you script it and you might storyboard it or photoboard it. Then you go out, according to those documents, you go out and shoot it on different locations, whatever, and you shoot it as per those documents. And then you bring it all back and you start to edit it. And that gives you the opportunity to do, you know, add music or graphics or sound effects or visual effects. And it's only then, when it's polished, nicely polished, that you upload it onto the internet in whatever platform or on whatever platform you choose. Some features of the shoot, butte, distribute model are that it's short, quick, and spontaneous, as you discovered. And ideally, no editing is required, but that means the quality might be a bit variable. But there's an immediacy about it, and that immediacy can in itself be very engaging. It depends on who your audience is, and you know, if your business is funeral parlor, you probably wouldn't do that. By contrast, the features of the three-phase model, because you plan it and script it and storyboard it, you have absolute control. And so it's more efficient in terms of shooting, because you know exactly what you're going to shoot, where you're going to shoot it, and how you're going to shoot it. Which potentially gives you more options for aesthetics and generally higher visual quality. And the editing gives you absolute quality control over what goes out. And one might argue that enables more depth of engagement, because you can work more with the aesthetics. Everything comes at a cost, as you well know. In business, everything comes at a cost. The research tells us that, remember, very early on, I said, you know, it's one of the reasons people don't use video is because it's too expensive. The research tells us the average spend per video of businesses is $0 to $500. That's chicken feed. That's not even petty cash. 18%, 500 to 1,000. And as we get more expensive, fewer and fewer organizations use those or spend that kind of money. But if you add those first two together, 60%, the majority, 60% is between $0 and $1,000. Literally, that is petty cash in terms of the impact that you can have with video. So it's all about you. It's all about you making an impact, as I said before. And in fact, it's all about you making a global impact, because you can. And I would argue that you should. Yeah, some people say, well, that's a big call. But if you look at a typical global media network, and they're all more or less structured the same, you know, they have these facets, these departments, and someone's got to decide on what the content is, what style, what visual style they're going to have. Someone's got to record and edit the material. And they've got to have on-air personalities, they've got to do promotion, advertising, they've got to distribute sales and broadcast, all that kind of stuff. And a global media network has hundreds, if not thousands, of people who do all of those things. So your global media network has exactly the same facets, exactly the same. The difference is that you don't have hundreds or thousands of people to do all that stuff. You have you to do it. And I would strongly encourage you to do it because you can. You can. So you don't have thousands of people. Who you have is you, and you. So I call this the micro media mogul model. Because you might want to farm out something like editing or whatever if it's too technical, whatever. But you can actually do that yourself with a bit of practice and perhaps some watching some YouTube videos or getting some coaching. So this is your micro media mogul model, and you have the reach of a Rupert Murdoch. You really do. So to do that, though, you need to get comfortable, confident, and credible on camera, and that's where my CCC Mastery Program, and surprise, surprise, CCC stands for comfortable, confident, and credible. Getting comfortable, confident, and credible on camera. And what it is fundamentally is a tailored, personalized coaching program that goes over 8 weeks, 1 + 6 + 1, and that will get you there, getting comfortable, confident, and credible on camera. So doing that, you can make video work for you. You can make video work for you, not against you, because a lot of the time it works against us. And make video work for you and your business, because it's all about you becoming a leader. In fact, it's all about you becoming a global leader. Any questions?
I do.
Yes.
You were going to mention blurred backgrounds.
Backgrounds, yes. Just before I do that, I'll just go to the next slide, because if anybody wants a copy of Going Digital, it's just a short report about the kinds of things we've been talking about. Let us know, and I'll get that to you. I'll stop sharing so I can actually interact with people. Yeah, backgrounds. I mean, if you look at my background, that's very specifically, it says what it's meant to say, and I've chosen that partly for aesthetic reasons, partly for informational reasons, partly for implication reasons, and partly for aesthetic reasons in that because it's a darker background, I've got a green screen behind me. Because it's a darker background, you tend not to have so much of that green halo effect. And if you look closely, it's slightly out of focus. And I'm just scanning all of the backgrounds now. And several of you have your business names and information and QR codes and things. That's great. So yeah, what it comes down to is self-awareness and consciousness, being mindful of what's there, and the opportunity that you have to make more of this little frame that you're in, the sort of the matchbox size frame. As I say, it's a micro marketing opportunity, and several people have done that, have taken that opportunity. And there's nothing wrong with using the background of your office or whatever. That's fine, but make sure there's some information there that you can actually. I mean, Sigrid's a good example. Sigrid uses I assume it's an office, and then she's got books and things in the background. So that tells us, even if she gets really boring and we look past her, I'm not saying you are by any means, Sigrid, but we can see other information there. Okay, it's really important that you're aware of that, and you take advantage of that, because it's such an opportunity, But we've kind of gotten a bit passé or blasé about Zoom, and yes, just we're having another Zoom meeting. But think of it as a micro marketing opportunity. So does that answer your question, Grace? Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. But the question was also, would you recommend like live background or digital, like in the digital background? Does that affect authenticity?
Well,
when you come across?
I mean, do you know about green screen or blue screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I happen to have a green screen, so I can pop in any background I choose, whether that's a still photo or video footage. I can do that. And so that gives you options. All right. I'm not saying you have to have a green screen by any means, but being mindful of what images you choose, whether they're digital or analog, whatever, you choose what they. I mean, if you look at your screen now, what I see there, one of the great things I see there is on the left of frame, you've got some Venetian blinds or something, and because of the nature of a wide angle lens, that's forcing the perspective, and it's making, I'm going the wrong side, sorry. It's making us look at you because it's taking our eye, because we read in Western society, we read from left to right. So it's taking our eye straight to you because it's pointing, literally pointing towards you, literally pointing at you. So that's a really nice, real three-dimensional context, visual context that you're in. So that's great. There's no reason to change it. I mean, you might want to, pop a graphic or something on there. I don't know, but it's up to you. But it's, I mean, your business at the moment is SaaS, but you're moving into life coaching, yeah, from your conversation.
Yes.
So, thanks, Jay. Good on you, mate.
Mine as well.
So what's life coaching? So you probably need a background that says everything and says nothing at the same time. The background that you've got says everything and it says nothing. It's aesthetically very, very appealing, but it's not making a statement. Yeah, it's taking our eye towards you. It's a nice piece of art in the background, but it's not making a brash statement or a marketing statement as such. But it's there, and depending on what you say and how you come across, you and your background will support each other.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Any other questions? I'm not scared to go to chat because I just didn't want to lose the presentation. So, what do we got? Questions? How you dress has an impact on you. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Scott Morrison thing says exactly that. And poor grammar in captions. Was that the Frydenberg one? The poor grammar in the captions. It's what our video Zoom. We've done that. Second video looks so good. I'm pleased because thanks Pedro for making that comment, and that's why I said don't delete either of them, because you need to see the difference between the quick no notice, quick must do that, and then a bit more thought goes into, a bit more time and thought goes into it. So you can enhance, very simply, you can enhance a really quick video by just thinking about, okay, have I got enough light? Jay, from my point of view, on my screen, Jay's looking a bit dark. There's, because you opened your Venetian blinds before and more light came in, that was great. But it was side light. So that's really good. That's much better, much better. So a simple thing like just opening the blinds, turning on a light. And during the presentation, one of my lights started flickering. You may or may not have noticed that, and because it's a crappy thing that is unreliable. But we notice stuff that just maximize the value of if you can use natural light, that's great. If you need to enhance it, that's absolutely fine. I've got windows here and it's not dark yet. So I've got windows here, plus I've got some other lights as well, just to make sure there's an evenness and a softness. If you use soft light, that's better than using harsh light that throws lots of shadows. For Resolve for YouTube, is that DaVinci Resolve? Talia, is that DaVinci? It's meant to be DaVinci, or is that a typo?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
DaVinci Resolve. Yeah, that's what it is. DaVinci Resolve. Yeah.
DaVinci Resolve. Okay, great.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I'll look into that. Thank you. Microsoft Clipperhamp free version. Pedro, what's that for? Is that for editing or something, or is that a Pedro?
Yeah, Microsoft Clipchamp. It's just what Microsoft use. You can upgrade it, but I use the free version.
Yeah,
it's easy.
And that's the point. These days, when I did television, especially in 1990, and a green screen cost like $50,000 to get that done. Now for $20, the app on your phone, it's nothing. Auto cue, teleprompters. Used to be you have to have someone driving it for you, someone over there with a bloody big camera with a thing hanging off the front of the camera. $20, auto cue on your smartphone. It's so easy. And the thing about, I haven't gone into auto cue and teleprompters, but the trick with auto cue and teleprompter, and they're the same thing, just auto cue is actually a brand name, I think, but I've always known it as auto cue. But the thing with those is that what you have to do is make sure that you don't look like you're reading. Okay, so it's really important to get that authenticity. You need to get used to reading it in a conversational way. In fact, all the videos of my Triple C Mastery course, and there's 100 of them. There's going to be a few more. I've used AutoCue for all of them just because of the bulk of information that I needed to get across in very short videos. So the options are you write a script, and if it's got to be technically correct, that's great. Use an AutoCue or a teleprompter. If it's something that you know a lot about, and even when you do know a lot about it, it's probably good to use a teleprompter. But you might dot point something. A script doesn't have to be word for word and formal. It can be a dot pointed, more conversational approach. In which case, I mean, like the first video that you did, and probably the second one you did as well, because you know what you're talking about. You know it so well. The danger is that we waffle on with irrelevant crap because we lose the thread. But if you know your subject really well, and all of you do, have 3 dot points and just speak around those dot points, making sure that you don't waffle on, making sure that you don't lose the thread and make your footage really difficult to edit later on. So, but teleprompters, AutoCues can be really very useful. And like I say, $20. There's a bloke called Joe Allen. He's a Pommy bloke, Joeallen. I use his. There are many different versions, but like $15, $20 for God's sake, why would you bother not? Any other questions at all? No, anything else in the chat box, chat room, chat box? OBS. What's OBS?
It's an editing program.
But
also you can use it for capturing screens, bringing in video and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I use ScreenFlow because I've got a Mac, and there's different versions, different packages for.
I think Jay uses OBS as well, don't you, Jay?
I use open source, OpenShot.
Okay. You can spend a lot of money on editing packages. I've used the industry standards, Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere Pro, and I've used both of them at various times. And it's I equate it to having a Ferrari to drive down the local shop to buy a carton of milk. A Corolla will do
price on DaVinci Resolve for the full version.
Oh right, okay, yeah. Well,
that's the mortgage.
ScreenFlow is really good, and it's fairly inexpensive, and it captures. You can do screen capture, you can import, you can green screen, you can do all sorts of things, and it doesn't have to be expensive at all to do that. And the industry standard ones do everything, but a lot of those things you actually don't need. So you can use something simpler and easier to use, like ScreenFlow or the OBS one. And I like the idea of the $4 green tablecloth. That's a good one as well. Absolutely. And these days, green screens, you can get away with a fair bit with green screen. So
$4 tablecloth, and I think it's the $18 clothes hanger from Kmart. Those portable ones. You just hang it to that.
Yeah,
perfect.
Fantastic.
And portable.
Well, and that's the thing. Everything's become so cheap and portable. Indeed, I've got a green screen. I'm doing a shoot with someone tomorrow, and over at their house, and they don't have a green screen. I have one hanging off the ceiling, but I have a portable one on a stand. Fold it up, take it over, done. Yeah, we'll shoot that with, and here's the background we'll use. I'm actually working on a documentary at the moment, which I won't go into details about, but it's a fascinating thing, and we're looking at using VR to emulate this particular mental condition. But you can do stuff on video now that's so easy, so inexpensive, and a lot of it is confidence. A lot of it is confidence and being, not looking at it, take one 16 times and going, oh my God, that's terrible. You go, well, if take one's crap, do another one.
There is a VR program out now for a virtual presenter.
Yeah,
there's several of them out now.
Yeah, I know. I'm very. My philosophy on using technology is use as little of it as you need, because the more you use, the more likely it is to fail or not be compatible or be a pain in the ass. In fact, I was shooting yesterday. I had to shoot a short video. I did one take. I thought, I'll do another one. And when I downloaded it, the second one, it was upside down and back to front. I don't know why. I didn't touch anything, didn't change anything. I couldn't flip it. Every time I tried to flip it, it just went back to the same thing. And I thought, oh, well, it's just a glitch. So I did take 3. Same thing happened, upside down and back to front. So before I threw my computer out the window in frustration, I thought, well, bugger it, I'll use take 1 because it was okay. and I stole a bit of the audio from take 2 to pop into to fix up a glitch in take 1. So, the more technology you use, the more likely it is to fail. I'm sorry, but that's just, yes, it's very exciting having technology, but if it creates more problems than it solves, if it costs more money than it saves, don't use it. Just use the basics: a phone, a microphone, a lapel microphone, which I don't have in front of me, a little lapel microphone, Rode, R-O-D-E, Australian brand, they're great. Little lapel microphone, stick it in your smartphone, and a tripod. Essentially, that's all you need, and you can take over the world.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Dr. Chris, spot on time. Thank you very much for that. I mean, look, I love having our masterclasses. We always learn something, and I learned something that I always just do the old, hey, here we go. Now I'm going to start doing it that way, which is worse because then you can see how fat my face is across the screen, right? But hey, if you say to do it, that's great. Look, guys, thank you so much for coming along today.
Thanks, everyone.
Chris, really appreciate you and everything that you do for us in Bconnected World.
Thanks very much, and great to see you all here. Thank you very much.